Hey guys, welcome back to the Web Security Academy lab walkthrough series. Today this is going to be the 7th installment of the series. In the last video we wrapped up the union attacks section of the SQL injection module. So now we're going to be on that section below it, which is the examining the database module in the SQL injection section. Specifically, we're going to be walking through the SQL injection attack, querying the database type and version on Oracle Lab. So this is going to add a little bit of nuance to what we have been doing. So what we have been doing is we've been working with a lot of MySQL databases on the back end. And there's a couple different types of SQL databases that are out in the wild, and they all have their own type of nuance and quirks in terms of syntax. So if you look at the actual SQL queries, you'll be able to read them really no matter what the database is on the back end, whether it's MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, like it is in this case. All of that SQL syntax is going to be the same. However, depending on the type, so say Oracle versus MySQL, they have their own little nuances that you do need to know about because they can cause some pretty substantial differences in terms of behavior when you're testing these things. So for today's lab, it's going to be a Oracle database, and I'm going to show you exactly that. In this case, we're going to be leaking the database version, which can be really helpful in some kill chains. Say you get this database to leak its version, and it even tells you what you're looking for up at the top here. Say Oracle database 11G Express. You could type that into Google, and there might potentially be a remote code execution vulnerability for that specific version. And then you might be able to chain some of these together in the wild and get some really cool attack chains out of it. So anyways, starting with the lab, I went ahead and loaded up the lab here. Just like all the other ones, the SQL injection is going to be in the categories parameter. So what I'm going to do is make sure that our intercept is on, turn that on, and then we're going to pick GIFs, come back over to burp. I'm going to Command R to send that to repeater, Control R if you're on Windows. Turn the intercept off, open the floodgates, let the rest of those requests go through. We'll come over to the repeater, and we're going to start with a very similar technique as we have, because we first need to know how many columns there are on the database. However, when it comes to doing this with Oracle databases, we need to query a default database that's installed in the DBMS. And that table or that database is called Dual. It's always going to be there, and it's by their default. And you must query some table on Oracle. So that is a little nuance, and I'll show you the difference here in a second. So we're going to do the union select like we have, and then we're going to type null. And then instead of just doing hyphen hyphen, what we have to do here is we have to do from dual hyphen hyphen. And I'll show you why. So we get that, that's an error. So that means there's more than one null. So let's try to add, or there's more than one column rather. So let's add another null and see if there's two columns. Cool. So it looks like there is two columns on this, and I'll show you why we need dual. So if we don't have this dual statement here, and we get rid of it, so this would work previously, right? Like we've done this a handful of times. We get rid of it, we get rid of that dual statement with this Oracle nuance, and now there's an error. So we need that from dual statement at the end. So we'll keep the from dual. We know there's two columns being queried. Let's figure out which one, or if both, have string data so we can get some useful information out of that. Let's do ABC, and we'll do 1, 2, 3. See if both of them have strings. And it looks like both of them do have strings. So that's good to know. So now we can extract the version information, which is going to be a string, out of really either of the two indexes that we want. So what we'll do now, we're going to keep that from dual there for a second. We're going to keep the union select. I'm going to get rid of these two strings. So right where we put the two strings, we're going to select, this is the keyword banner. That is the header banner for Oracle. So that's going to tell us what database is on the back end. So that'll tell us the Oracle database. So that'll sit in that first slot where that first null was at. Then we're going to put a comma plus. We're going to add something else here. We're going to add null because that's going to sit in that second column right where we had from before, or right where we had the other null before. So instead of dual now, we don't want this default table anymore. We don't want that. What we want is a special keyword within Oracle that's going to give us the version of the database. And that, which you can find on the SQL injection cheat sheet on Portswigger's website, is $version. So what we should have is we're going to end the query here. We're going to do a union select like we have, except for this time in the first index, which was that original first null, we're going to be grabbing the banner. So that's the header information from the database. Then that second, we're just going to put null, so it accepts any data type and it matches what we need. And then we're selecting from the table this time, we're selecting the database version. So you can kind of see what we're stringing together here. And then obviously we're closing off the rest of the SQL query with the double dash. So we will send that through and we'll check this out on the backside. You can see we solved the lab. I'm curious, just really quick, if we go down to the response and we do show response in browser, we copy this and open it. Let's see if it'll show us the actual database version. Yeah, okay. So if we do open it, it will show us the database version. So it'll show us the production. Here you can see this is probably the header information. You get all these different types of version information on the stuff that's running on the back end, which is really interesting and really useful. Tomorrow we will go over the MySQL version of this, and we'll continue doing some database enumeration techniques for the next 3 to 4 videos, I believe. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and I will be back again tomorrow with another video on this. Thanks, guys.